Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Gulf Technology Talk. We're kicking off by diving into the captivating world of augmented and virtual reality. So it's no longer science fiction. AR and VR are starting to impact our daily lives. And joining us to guide us through this exciting landscape is Mattia Crespi, a globally recognized expert in the evolution of technology and also the CEO of Qbit Technology. Welcome, Mattia.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. So today we're going to embark on a fascinating journey through time, exploring how augmented and virtual reality went from being like a distant dream to becoming a reality and also accessible to businesses and people as well. So, Mattia, could you share with us the pivotal moments that shaped the landscape of AR and VR?
Yes, absolutely. So, as you said very well, virtual reality started as a distant dream. And in particular, a long time ago, when we were, as humankind, actually aiming to go to the moon. In fact, it was within the walls of NASA and the MIT that virtual reality began to take shape with the first actually headsets that have been produced in the late 60s. And the aim was precisely because we were going into space and there was a perceived need of simulating something that could happen in a place where we didn't go before, we couldn't be. And so virtual reality started to appear as a possible solution to that. Even though, of course, the concept of simulations and virtual reality as a concept, if you will, started much sooner. And you'd be interested to know that the first flight simulator was actually built in the first years of the 1900s.
Oh, wow.
I think it was 1907. So by a guy named Edward Link that actually built the first flight simulator. You can find it on the internet. It's like looks like a toy plane that is a mechanical copy of an airplane.
I'm gonna definitely check that out.
That is quite funny to see. But in any case, going back to virtual reality, so from the late 60s, of course, we had the first attempts, let's say, in a laboratory setting. And then we saw, obviously there were various experiments and progression of technology. And if we have to mention the pivotal moments, I would say, let's say on the mainstream market, and when the concept of not just virtual reality, but a 3D internet came into life was in the beginning of the years 2000. So almost 40 years after, 30 years after that. We started seeing in the years 2000 the emergence of virtual worlds, 3D virtual worlds. And that's when I personally got into working with these technologies, because I was involved in the project of Second Life, which is a famous 3D virtual world that was produced during the years 2000. It was actually launched in 1999 and founded by Philip Rosedale, and who was the creator of this first ecosystem that was essentially an evolution of the internet in 3D. So for the first time, we saw the possibility of, instead of having a 2D bidimensional website with pages, to actually have a 3D space where, to represent any type of content. And this was the time of the user-generated virtual worlds. And Second Life, for example, was one of the first platforms to allow anyone to essentially create 3D content and publish it online in a virtual space in 3D. This was not done with VR headsets as you have them today. And in fact, I would say that the next pivotal moment in VR is when Oculus launched and produced the first consumer VR headsets, quickly followed by HTC Vive as well. That was a few years after. I don't remember now the exact year, but it was, I think, 15 years after, probably 2013 or something like this. Forgive me
No
my
worries.
imprecision. But like at the beginning of virtual worlds in the years 2000, there was a lot of attention to this new wave
Mhm.
that brought the attention to the concept of virtual reality to the mass market, but not just virtual reality, to actually the concept of a transition from an internet in 2D to an internet in 3D.
Okay.
And this later took the name of metaverse, as Facebook and Meta defined it later.
Mhm.
But in any case, the as I was saying, the next pivotal moment after 3D virtual worlds has been the arrival of the first consumer market VR headsets. And of course, the first Oculus Rift models, and I have one over here, I can also show it to you, were very bulky and very difficult to use, to plug in. And they quickly evolved, especially after the acquisition by Facebook of Oculus, into more efficient devices. And today, as you know, we're living another, I would say, pivotal moment where VR headsets are beginning to be adopted by the mass market with bigger numbers. Apple has also entered this market with the Apple Vision Pro. And the concept of extended reality, meaning a dimension of the reality that is either entirely virtual and immersive with VR, or augmented with a reality augmented with digital content, has become mainstream.
Yes.
We
So
have,
just to
yes,
clarify, when we talk about augmented reality, it's basically we're not creating anything that doesn't exist. So it's still a reality, but we're just like giving it more augmentation. So I just want to highlight the difference between
yes,
augmented reality and virtual reality. Uh,
yes.
I think
So
you will
virtual,
explain it better. So I will.
with pleasure, with pleasure. And thank you for the question. So virtual reality is an environment that is entirely digital. Is,
Exactly.
you wear a headset and you immerse yourself in a 3D space, in a virtual space that is
Mhm.
entirely virtual. Augmented reality is when you overlay digital content onto an image of reality. So you have see-through headsets or glasses, or you can even use a phone for augmented reality, where with the phone camera, you look at something and you see content, digital content, 3D or 2D content overlaid onto the real image.
Yeah.
And they both have, different use cases, and we'll go over those later.
Exactly. We're gonna talk about this. So that's truly fascinating, and I think the possibilities are mind-blowing. But I want to talk about the challenges. Like, what challenges does AR and VR face currently?
Yes, absolutely. So in general, so not to get into too much technicality, to give you a quick overview, the major limitations into the development of these technologies are, of course, technical, meaning uh, the ability to actually create and render a 3D space that is interactive in real time and with a high level of resolution, interactivity, and fidelity, it's something that is very difficult to do.
Okay.
It's difficult to do because it requires a lot of computing resources. And if anyone that is watching has ever experienced some computer graphics or designing with computers, even in the old days, like graphics related applications on computers have been the most demanding in terms of memory, processing power, computing power in general. And it was true for 2D graphics when desktop publishing started, computer aided design started, Photoshop, Illustrator, Adobe, and all these companies started releasing their products to do essentially graphics design that was done on paper before. Already at the time, these applications demanded very powerful computers. And I remember when I started working, we had very big machines with, and you had to put lots of memory inside of them, and they were extremely expensive. Like I remember my first graphics workstation uh, costed something like $12,000 at the time. And today, you can get the same amount of, actually, you can get a lot more processing power with $500. So it was always a challenge to render high fidelity graphics and professional quality design and graphics already in 2D. And it's even more so with 3D, both for static 3D models. 3D modeling requires more processing powers from machines, and even more when these 3D models have to be interactive in real time.
Okay.
So, and when I say interactive in real time, it means a 3D space, like a virtual reality space, where you can move inside, you can interact with objects, uh, and and maybe even interact with other people in the same space, which makes it even more demanding in terms of processing power. To conclude, the other problem to solve is, one thing is having an interactive 3D simulation on a computer on a flat screen, which is 3D, but on a screen that is still bidimensional. Another thing is having it in a VR headset that by definition has two screens, one for the left eye, one for the right eye, or vice versa. And because in order to have this, the processing power required is even more. So you exponentially augment the need for processing power when you want to create this type of environment. So that's a big blocker. And don't forget that for VR, because you want to wear headsets, and these headsets are big for a reason, processing power requires a lot of battery power. So the battery that powers it, if you're not connected with the cable, has still occupies a certain size. And also all the components, it's like putting a computer on your head. So it's heavy, it's difficult to wear, it's chunky. So it's there are usability issues as well, and hardware, uh, building hardware issues that make it difficult. But as the market is progressing. You have seen new headsets coming out. Today, there are various companies that are producing headsets, not just Meta and Apple. You have HTC, you have Pico, you have HP, you have Sony, many players that are producing VR headsets. And of course, they will get, as it happened for computers that were once huge machines inside a room, they became as small as a phone, and this will be the same. So we will soon, and I can probably safely say that within the next 10 years, we will see glasses like the ones I'm wearing with capabilities to render
Yeah, we
3D
started to see
interactive
that.
graphs. Yeah, with
Exactly.
Ray-Ban, for example, and
Yeah,
Meta
exactly.
and Google Glasses. There was a very early attempt,
Yeah.
but and obviously, you always have to be careful what you see online and the advertising videos of the capability compared to what's really possible.
Mhm.
But we're getting there, absolutely.
Exactly. So we talked more about the technical challenges. Like, are there any other business-related challenges related to AR and VR? And also, my next question is like, despite the challenges, like, why, in your view, should businesses increase their adoption of augmented reality and virtual reality?
Yes. So it's a lot of questions into one. To start is, like in every new technology or methodology or process adoption, it takes time for people to understand how to create real value out of these new possibilities that technology is offering. Given the fact that the technology is in its early stages, so not perfect and still to be made better,
Mhm.
it also takes a certain time for people and especially companies and businesses to understand what are the best use cases for implementation and adoptions in their operations. And obviously a company has an innovation stage where they experiment, they do research and development, and they have a process stage of
Mhm.
operations where something that comes from the innovation side is brought into the daily life. And in this sense, immersive technologies and spatial computing have been in the realm of innovation in the past probably 20 years. And now they're just beginning to shift toward the operations and the daily processes. Um, and this takes time. It takes time, and to answer the first question is people need to understand how to use them, how to integrate
Yeah.
new ways of doing things into old ways of doing things, and how to make the shift without breaking things, because as you know, changing the way people work or essentially changing a person is one of the most difficult things you can do. So when you do this also in the adoption of new methodologies, you have to be very careful on the change management process you do, and this takes time.
Exactly.
Secondly, the use cases, as we said, in every new possibility, new technology, methodology that appears, uh, the presence of the technology itself does not mean necessarily that you can get value from it in every domain.
Mhm.
And this is very important to be said. And as much as I like virtual reality, augmented reality, and the technologies I work with, I never say
It's
they
forever.
are, they are good for everything or
Mm.
they can be applied to any sector or any activity. There are some things that they're very good for, some others where they are completely useless. To say what they're good for and to answer the second part of the question, what are the best use cases? Um, where there is real value today, there will be lots of others in the future, but
Mhm.
today where the real value is uh, in situations where you have to, for example, train people, because creating what are called training simulations using virtual reality So building a scenario for a training situation for employees or workers in a factory or maintenance personnel is extreme, or students in a university, as a matter of fact, is has proven to be throughout the years and with real data collected from various experiences and experiments has proven to be extremely effective. Why is it extremely effective? One, because when people are engaged in a training simulation, they're very focused. If they wear a VR headset, they're not distracted by what happens around them, but they are inside the training situation and forced to be focused on it. Learning by actually doing the things, because in a training simulation, you do things practically. Today, you also have hand controllers, you have motion capture, you have haptics, technologies that allow to have movement inside virtual environments. And this all put together generates a system that allows learning by doing, which is very powerful.
I think it's also really nice, like for disaster management. So the people that
Yes.
usually do this type of training, it's way more efficient if they can feel what's happening around them and to feel like it's something real. So it really
Yes.
helps also.
And not just that, it's for situations that are either expensive to train on or to simulate, or dangerous. Like an accident happens, a fire sets out in a factory, a refinery where there is a oil tank that can explode. Like all the situations where there is danger and security, and it's not a case that one of the first early adopters of training simulations have been the military and defense in general. Why? Because obviously you deal with situations that threatens people's lives. So being able to
Work
simulate
under
this situation
pressure to
in a
exactly.
safe environment that does not kill people, it's obviously of value. And this
Yeah.
is the same in industrial cases.
Mhm.
So I would say, to conclude on this question, I would say the best use cases of virtual and augmented reality are today in training and maintenance applications, when you need, for example, to perform maintenance operations on machinery, on industrial equipment, on, in a refinery, again, in a factory, in a power plant, where on one hand, training the personnel efficiently and effectively is very important, and VR can help with that. On the other hand, augmented reality can be very powerful in supporting when they're actually doing the operations of, for example, maintenance, in supporting them with content to help them in the job they're doing. For example, they have to act on a component, and the augmented reality view can show them precisely how they have to act on this component. So
Okay.
they don't have to remember, when you are, for example, performing a maintenance operation that has several steps, they don't have to, maybe either remember the whole procedure or go through a manual every time. They can see with the augmented content what they need to do step by step, one operation after the other. And this is really powerful.
Very helpful, exactly.
The other use case I wanted to mention, and it's completely different and on a totally different side and based on different values, is the marketing and the digital experience, let's say the online digital engagement side. And this is completely different. It's more for brands that want to appeal to younger audiences. As we know, our kids are, of course, immersed in technology, and this is not necessarily good. But not just that, they are using a lot of their times is spent on 3D apps, games, Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, and you have, our kids are used to live the internet and digital technologies in 3D. we grew up used to live technology on a flat screen. Yes, they still have the flat screen, but the applications are already immersive. So when you're a brand and in your digital campaigns and digital engagement want to appeal to the generations that are growing up, and in the future they will be adults, these will be adults grown on a version of the internet that is in 3D. They will be used to 3D. So already today, for certain brands and in certain use cases, the ability to have content that is interactive and in 3D is very powerful and can generate value. One of these cases is also e-commerce, for example. That's probably right now it's in let's say in the very early stages, and that's again because of a number of technical reasons. But for example,
it's getting there. Like we're seeing,
yeah, I
more
mean,
focus on.
yes, I mean the ability to have, instead of having a flat page with pictures of a product to buy, to have an immersive store experience where you can move inside a digital store that you know, as if you would do in a physical store, and when you see the products in 3D. Now this is again
Especially like
technically
everyone is shifting to like online shopping, but it still has its challenges. For example, the sizes, it doesn't fit properly. So
yes,
I think, yeah, they would be working more on like creating this experience of you being able to go to the store, try the outfit, or I don't know, see
absolutely.
the items. And regarding games, like I was seeing 2 days ago, like how the games used to be, like very pixelized. You can barely see the characters in the game, and how now you can actually like be in the game. So
Exactly. And that's in a way
impressive.
that's you know, it's good and it's dangerous as well, because you know, you can get really immersed in the
Yeah,
experience much more than, you know, the old games. After, you know, it's
that's
it used to be easier to get bored quicker in older types of games, or after a while the experience was somehow limited,
yeah.
and you know, the real experience in a game even was much better. Today you know, sometimes the virtual experience is so compelling that, you know, especially for younger kids, can be considered better than the physical life, and that's obviously
Exactly. Yeah, it's
also
also good
dangerous.
to highlight that like it's really, this technology gives us so many benefits and advantages, but at the same time we need to consider its risks as well. So
Yes,
yeah, I definitely
yes.
agree with
In
you.
this respect, I would say there are also some things that are in between. For example, another, I think, very effective thing is a trend on virtual reality fitness applications. So, you know, when you have to do your workout, instead of, you know, cycling on a machine in front of a wall, you can wear a VR headset and you are cycling in the middle of a forest. Or, you know, you can use augmented reality to better follow your workout routine, and make sure you're doing the right things in the right way, using if you're in a gym, you're using tools to
Yeah.
use them correctly.
Maybe
uh,
kickboxing if you don't have partners. That I
exactly,
thought about my activity now. So I don't have any partner here to work out with. So it would be a good option to
exactly, yes,
to
so
work
this
out
can be
virtually.
very helpful, yes.
Great. So all the use cases seems really interesting. And I just want to ask, like, what's coming next, like in this world? What do you think, where will we go with the augmented reality and virtual reality?
Yeah, so there are, I would say, some progressive steps and some big disruption moments that will happen, like in every technology. As progressive steps, I would definitely mention the progress of devices. So as you know, glasses and VR headsets will become lighter, more powerful, better, and they will be more usable. It would be a constant progression as it was for computers, mobile phones, and so on.
Be more common,
Uh,
more accessible.
yes, and ultimately more usable.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would say a real breakthrough moment will happen for augmented reality in particular, where we will get to the point, like we mentioned before, where glasses will be, not heavy headsets, but glasses like
Lighter.
this with augmented
Mhm.
reality capability. And by the way, there are already contact lenses as well that offer augmented reality capabilities. But
Okay.
obviously, the projection of the digital content you can see is very limited. So
Mhm.
you can see texts, you can see small shapes. It's like a 2D PowerPoint and not a 3D simulation. But I would say a disruption will happen when people will be able to wear glasses like this and see augmented content
Yeah.
that is really in high resolution and realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And this will change a lot of things in the computing paradigm. Um, Another important aspect is also the progression of haptics. So replicating movement and any type of interaction, which is very important. Um, and then obviously, ultimately, but this will take some years for a number of reasons, not just technological, is uh, and that's not just related to virtual and augmented reality, but it is strongly related to it in a sense, is that we are and I'll use the example again of the big computers in the room. We started our relationship with computers very far away from them. Computers were in a big room, and we had what were called clients, like at the time of the early IBM or compact computers. We had the keyboard, we had the screen, but the computer was actually in a big room in the basement in a company, for example. Okay, now as we progressed, our relationship with computing has become of proximity. Computers went from that room to our desk. In fact, we call them desktops.
Yeah.
From the desktops, they went into our purse, laptops, okay, and closer to us, on our lap, okay. Then they became mobile phones, even closer to us, not just on our lap, but in our pockets.
Yeah, exactly.
Then they
Part
became
of us now.
smartwatches,
Yeah.
not just in our pocket, but on our
On our
wrists.
hand. Yeah.
Now they're becoming glasses again, a bit like watches, and
Mm.
closer and closer to us. And the next step will be inside.
Okay.
So it will be, as there are companies like Neuralink from Elon Musk that are
Yeah.
already experimenting
Started
with
trying. Yeah.
neural connectivity, and many universities around the world are doing that as well.
Mhm.
So, the ability for a microchip to be connected directly with your brain and interpret obviously your brain stimuli and the signals that are coming from your brain to be able to interact directly with the machine. So just to be very futuristic, don't forget I'm a futurist by nature, so I tend to look ahead. I need to mention to conclude this interview that the way we technologists and futurists see the future with machines is really a complete integration. At the end of the day, the what we're doing with machines is recreating the same abilities we as humans are able to do in nature and naturally. So we have, machines that are able to think, calculate, artificial intelligence, machines that are able to perform and act in the physical world, like robots. And robots started with just robotic arms and machines that were in industries, and now they're becoming humanoids. They're androids. And we already saw that in movies, and we know where this is going towards. And obviously the point is, what will happen when this integration will truly be complete? And this obviously brings up a lot of questions, and philosophical, moral, ethical questions, of
Yeah, there's
course.
no one answer for that.
And it's difficult to answer, but it's like, ultimately, technology is impacting humankind in its evolution. And this has been forever. It's not just today. It's since we have been there. The new technological capabilities have determined the way we evolve as humans.
Exactly. So thank you.
I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Mattia, for
you.
sharing these very interesting insights. And hopefully we'll have another discussion, maybe in
Would love to.
yeah, to discuss more how things will progress with AR and VR. And thank you again for your expertise. And I want to just remind our listeners to follow us on LinkedIn and to visit exceeders.com to stay updated on our latest talks. Thank you.
And like a lot.
Like a lot, exactly. Thank you so much. Until next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Pleasure.